Yo, welcome to the Magic Carps YouTube. Today we're gonna watch a VOD review of one of my Players Cup 3 keys, and we're gonna be using PikaRom, good old PikaRom. It will never ever die, as the the thumbnail and the title have told you. The deck is still very good. One of the reasons why the deck is so good is its ability to both outspeed its opponents and hinder its opponents. So we're gonna talk about and focus on in this game kind of this idea of pace of play and really making like these decisions of like, how can I disrupt my opponent, but also how can I establish an aggressive and threatening board. You know, a lot of people seem to think of PikaRom as this kind of aggressive deck, or I've had a lot of people tell me it's a Luxacky deck because you just have to stamp and hope. But PikaRom just has so many options, and that's why it is so powerful. You can speed the game up. You know, if your opponent is struggling, they miss a turn, you get to go Electrify, then you get to Full Blitz, and they can't get that knockout on the peak. Suddenly you've put so much energy on the board that Boltund is hitting really hard, and you can just take control of the game. And that's why the hammers are fine. There's too much Eternatus right now to not play hammers, unfortunately. It's also good against ADP and stuff. And then you can slow the game down against fire decks. That's what we do. That is our primary win condition. We should never, ever actually beat welder decks at a game of aggression. Sometimes we do because welder decks brick. But, you know, it's another deck where we can just kind of say like, hey, I am going to, move around, establish a board, and then suddenly we're going to make a comeback. We're going to paralyze, we're going to swell, we're going to stamp, we're going to do all this stuff. And one of the reasons why I think PikaRom is still arguably the BDIF is it does all of that stuff. It does it consistently, and really it's up to you to choose the right options. If you choose the right options, you're usually in a good spot. Of course, yes, the deck can brick. Yes, I've lost keys because I've bricked round one. It happens. This is the list I've been running so far to a fair amount of success. We're a little over 2 points per key with peak. I don't know the actual numbers, like 2.1 or 2.2 with peak. A little worse with Luke Metal. Stealthy Hood's potentially cuttable. I've beaten most of the Rapid Strikes I've played against, but we usually just beat Rapid Strikes because we're a little more consistent than they are, it seems like. The ones I've been hitting on, like, they're good lists. There's nothing about their list that's bad. It's just like they miss something. I don't know if that's the people missequencing or what, but the Rapid Strike matchup is bad if they pop off. It seems fine if they don't. If they struggle, we win. If they pop off, we lose. And so the Hood's potentially cuttable and just say, you know what, I'm going to hope they brick. If they don't brick, I lose. And you could replace the Hood with something else. Otherwise, I think everything else is good. The Charm has come in handy for sure. Stamps are good. 4 Boltund is nice. It's a best of 1. You really want to start that 4th Boltund. But anyway, we're going to watch this game against ADP. I know, ADP, it's not fun. The game was so stressful to play. But it's a good time to really look at the idea of how do we switch from being a disruptive deck to an aggressive deck and all this kind of stuff. So hopefully you can learn from it. Hopefully I can learn from it too. I know I will. There's some sketchy plays in here. There's always sketchy plays in here. I would love to say I play perfectly clean games, but I don't. Anyway, let's go ahead and check out this game. All right. So here we are. We're watching a previously played game. This was from the Players Cup. So we have our opening hand. We don't know what our opponent's playing. They play a Lightning deck box. We're going second though, so we're fine. You know, if it's a PikaRom mirror, then cool. But a Lightning deck box could mean literally anything. Remember, this is the type of deck, and this is a quick rant because people always talk about the meta gaming of the deck boxes. Could be peak, could be ADP, it could be Tempozard, it could be Centiscore. Anything that plays a Dedenne could have this deck box. So don't overthink that one. I know I'm over here with my PikaRom coin and my Pikachu coin and deck box, and I'm going to beat you anyway. Whatever. I don't care. I like this deck box. It's a good deck box. But don't overthink that. We choose to go second no matter what. We're going to go ahead and start the peak with this hand. Is a very good hand. We obviously don't want to start the Dedenne. There is an argument, though. If we had an Air Balloon in this hand, starting Dedenne could actually be the optimal play. And the reason for that is with an Air Balloon in hand, we can just put it on the Dedenne, go grab a Boltund with a Quick Ball, and then we get the turn 1 Electrified guaranteed. Without the Air Balloon in hand, we're going to go ahead and start the peak, hopefully hit that switch. Like I said, we don't know what our opponent's up against. I already gave you a preview on the thing. We're up against ADPZ, but it's just important to keep track. The deck box means nothing. The sleeves mean nothing. It's whatever it is. They started DAA. That's perfectly fine for us. And they're going to hit that Cherish Ball. Let's see what they grab. Thankfully, our hand is gas, so our opponent, best case scenario, they get a metal energy on that ADP and hit the Intrepid Sword. So we assume they're going to grab a ADP with this and attach to it. They could also grab a Dedenne if their hand is bad. They're prize checking, presumably. Otherwise, I don't know why they'd be taking this long. And they go for the turn 1 Mawile. Sure, why not? They put our Dedenne down anyway. We still start the PikaRom. The PikaRom start is still correct given the hand, spinner, and a Day-Day change. I absolutely hate this play by my opponent. If you're watching live, you definitely heard me talk about it. Such a stupid play. They had 2 waters in their hand that they're going to Day-Day away. And they went for the cheesy turn 1 Mawile. This is the finals of the tournament. I'm sure it's worked just fine for them. Such a terrible, terrible play. They clearly checked, do I have my 3rd water in deck? Yes, I do. Let's go for the Mawile. It's fine. It doesn't actually body me that hard. It's annoying, but it's fine. Oh, they had 1 water. Sorry, not 2. Still, still a sketchy play. They do get never punished drawing into the ADP anyway, get the attachment on it. And a quick ball, likely going to grab a Zacian. They are down a switch. That is very important to note. I mentioned earlier, we're going to focus on the idea of how do we play this deck as both aggressive and disruptive. One of the main things that we're counting always in every single matchup is how many switches does our opponent have access to. The less switches they have, the more likely we're going to go for an early tandem shock. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, you tandem shock and stamp to 1 or 2. I mean, yes, you do. But if your opponent's down a bunch of switches, you can cheese them with the tandem. It's not even a cheese. You can punish their aggressiveness there. They willingly got rid of that switch. But you can kind of punish that aggressiveness with tandem shocks. Intrepid Sword, they miss energy, which is good for us. This hand. So we've got a lot of different choices we can do here. We have the hammer, we have 2 different draw supporters, and we have a quick ball we have to decide what to get rid of. So order of operations is largely irrelevant between the hammer and the quick ball. Those are clearly the 2 best choices. We attach this speed energy to a Boltund 100% of the time. We quick ball for a Boltund 100% of the time. Now what we could do is decide between Research and Marnie. Kind of depends what's prized. We play Koko Prism. We have a lot of energies in the deck. Personally, what I think we do is quick ball away this lightning energy, grab a Boltund. In theory, we can get it back. If Koko Prism's prized, it's also probably fine. We have 10 basic lightnings plus a bunch more speeds. This is a game where we're never going to get that many energy on the board. You're not all of the energy. So we can go ahead and quick ball the lightning, grab a Boltund, attach speed to Boltund, and then we can decide from there what we want to do. Save the hammer for after, but if you want to flip the hammer immediately, go for it. We always want to get rid of that energy off the ADP anyway. There's the hammer. We're going to go for it. Flip tails. That's fine. Check our prizes real quick. We have Peak. We have Raichu. Very important. We have our stamps. Also very important in this matchup. Prized a boss. Big Charm is here. Fairly important. The problem is we have Peak and Day-Day. We can't Big Charm both. Grab the bolt and put the speed on it. Okay. Now we have to decide. Do we want to research here or do we want a Marnie? My opponent's a 5-card hand. They're down 2 Dedennes. We drew into a Mewtwo. All we need is a switch. If we research, we lose 1 speed energy and 1 Marnie. It's not too bad. I think what we do here, bench the Mewtwo. Yeah, we wanna load up that Mewtwo and go ahead and research. Disrupting their hand doesn't seem that valuable. They did quick ball for a Zacian, but that doesn't mean they have it like that. More cards just feels way better, and there's the research. Thankfully, we do draw into the switch. That is the one issue with starting PikaRom. We didn't draw a balloon anyway. But we got the switch. We got a Big Charm. Big Charm in this matchup goes on one of 3 places. Dedenne-GX, so it can't be Ultimate Raid. PikaRom, so they need a Rusted Sword to KO it, or Mewtwo, so it cannot be KO'd through a Rusted Sword. Now, my opponent was very nice and benched the Dedenne for me. So that makes our decision a little harder. And I think we're playing against ADP. If they Marnie us, it's not great. But it's not the worst thing in the world if they Marnie us here. So I think we hold on to this Big Charm. We just go ahead and switch, and we electrify. And we electrify to the Mewtwo and Mew. Having the Peak on the field is a bit of a liability because they could go GX plus boss the Peak. So that is one argument to power up the Peak. but we want to be able to Tandem Shock next turn if we need to. So we're going to go ahead and power up the Mewtwo. Now, my opponent's best turn, the absolute bodying us they can do here is go Boss or Great Catcher the PikaRom plus GX. That is a terrifying, terrifying play. We don't really have a way around it, but we have 3 switch in deck. We're probably fine. Yeah, it's not surprising they have the GX in hand. They only need 2 cards. Let's see, what do they pull off? Do they have the Gust? They don't. That is so huge for us. All right, so we talked about top deck a Cherish Ball. Hitting with Boltund here does absolutely nothing. It doesn't do nothing, but it's not a good play. So we don't really want to hit with Boltund here. We want to attach to the Mewtwo and Mew. We do have Coco Prism in deck. So we could research the energy away, potentially draw a speed energy to dig a little deeper. Not a terrible option either. But I think what we do here is we want to prevent the Ultimate Ray next turn. If they can take 0 prizes next turn, we are in a good place. So what we're going to do here is we're going to attach the Big Charm to Dedenne-GX. That way the Ultimate Ray does not take prizes, and we can hopefully play the prize denial game the rest of the way. Attach the Lightning Energy to the Mewtwo, go ahead and Cherish Ball, grab a Raichu, and we're going to put it on our bench. In this matchup, benching your tag teams is nice because it plays around Escape Rope very effectively, and Lightning Ride GX is very often a play we have to make. We have to Lightning Ride into something that the Zacian can't OHKO without a sword. Raichu is that thing. So it might be tempting to discard the Raichu here. I've been punished for it. Go ahead and Cherish Ball. Pop that Raichu on the bench. The reason we're going to grab Raichu instead of the second Mewtwo is the ideal turn here is Tandem Shock. My opponent did not play a supporter. They're down 2 Dedennes. They might not have access to a third one. They might not have access to a Crobat. The odds of paralysis sticking are decent. They have 3 switch left, potentially no supporter in hand. There's definitely a chance that we can get paralysis to stick. They never pull off an Ultimate Ray, at which point we're in a pretty good spot. Let's go ahead and see what we actually choose to do. But we should grab the Raichu. Perfect. Big Charm on the Day. Now, there is also the argument, well, we could Big Charm the Peak as well to force a sword. I don't think it's necessary. We have to protect that Day because if our opponent happens to have Switch Energy Boss and a way to get it in hand, we actually just lose the game. Like, there's no real coming back from that. This play lets us say, okay, maybe you pull off an Ultimate Ray. Even if you pull off that Ultimate Ray, you're not in the best spot in the world. Research, thankfully we draw on Balloon, we draw a Switch, we're going to Balloon the active. And the reason we're going to Balloon the active instead of use a Switch is my opponent can still pull off some cheeky play next turn where I paralyze them, they boss stall me. So we want the Switch just in case they choose to boss stall that Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. Retreat, and hit him with the Tandem Shock. I'm really hoping they don't have Switch here. That is the ideal. That is, if they have Switch, it's not a good spot for us. But if we can avoid the Ultimate Ray, then we're putting ourselves into the driver's seat. We go from the defensive deck, well, we're making a defensive play to become the aggressor. Cherish Ball, they're going to find that third Dedenne if they play one. Not all do. I've seen some 2-2 splits of Day and Crobat. That's an ADP. That's not a Dedenne. So that's good for us. They do pull off the E-Switch. That's very good for them. The Zacian's going to be ready to swing next turn. Saucer. Zacian's ready to swing now, but they have to Intrepid Sword. Okay. Pull off a third energy. Good for them. I'm very proud of you, opponent. So now we have a few plays we can make. Unfortunately, none of them involve anything but hitting the active. So we know 100% sure we are full blitzing into this ADP next turn. I have to decide what is the optimal way to do that. We don't want to Bolt Storm because then they come up KO us for 3 prizes, and that's not good. That's not good. So we have a speed energy. We definitely want to use that to draw cards. That might change whether we want to Marnie, whether we want to research, whatever we want to do there. So we know we're going to full blitz with our Mewtwo. What are we going to full blitz to? Well, the beautiful thing about this Raichu is Lightning Ride GX is one of the only ways we can KO the Zacian. So we should go ahead and put the speed energy on the Raichu. The reason for that is they already might be eyeing up a boss KO on this Boltund. We don't want to load up the Boltund anymore. We want to load up the stuff that isn't easy prey for this powered up Zacian. And the reason why Raichu is such a good choice is we full blitz the Raichu plus attach. We're threatening the knockout next turn on their Zacian, which is going to put a lot of pressure on them. We really want to ask ourselves every turn, what does my opponent not want me to do? They don't want me to KO that Zacian. They didn't get off an Ultimate Ray. They're down a Saucer already. So we want to power up that Raichu for all of those reasons. And it's one of those plays, I have a strong feeling a lot of you watching this, you know that. You almost win immediately. But it's like, why are we making this play? Makes a pretty big difference. I hope I make this play. I don't remember. Okay, good. There's a speed. Drew a boss. That's a cool card. So we know my opponent has 2 random cards in hand. Intrepid Sword for 3, but 1 was an energy. We can count their hand. They have ADP, 2 cards from Intrepid Sword, 2 cards that are not Quick Ball, Crobat, or a draw supporter. The question becomes, do we want to Marnie them? Well, they'd have 1 less card in hand, right? But also, they really only have 2 potentially good cards in hand. And a Marnie would give them 4 potentially good cards. Marnie here, probably not the optimal play. Do we want to research this hand? Ooh, it's a good hand. If they happen to pull off the boss KO on our PikaRom, or they put a sword on the Zacian next turn, we want that reset stamp. Boss, that's also a very good card. We kind of want to keep the boss. There's a world where maybe my opponent wants to play a game of chicken. We kind of want to keep that boss around for later. So I think what we do here is we actually hold the hand. We don't need anything else this turn. There's no reason to research. We don't want to disrupt their hand. No reason to Marnie. We definitely don't want a boss here. We have no way to KO that Zacian on the bench. So we can just go ahead and hit him with the full blitz. Full blitz to the Raichu and Raichu Tag Team GX. Again, let's hope I make this play. Sometimes I forget. We're watching at 1.5 times speed, and sometimes I do think for that long. There's the full blitz. Beautiful. Again, I've talked about why we choose not to use this hand, not to use a draw supporter. You don't have to be aggressive. Coco is not in deck. Cool. I misspoke earlier. Clearly, I knew that playing the game. Coco being here is actually very good for us. So now my opponent has 3 targets that they can KO with that Zacian on the bench. We are threatening a knockout, and we're able to put up the Mewtwo and Mew. So we're able to go attach to Raichu, Lightning Ride into the Mewtwo and say, can you do it? And maybe they can't. Maybe they can too. Honestly, I've had ADPs pull off the nuts. Like, unfortunately, ADP wins this game if they draw well. If you play this game in your head, ADP wins every time because they will always have it. Your job is to say, how do I disrupt you enough? And that is one of the ways PikaRom wins every single matchup. What does my opponent not want me to do? Let's do that. Opponent makes a good play here. They can KO the PikaRom. You never KO the PikaRom if you're them. You always KO the Dedenne. Otherwise, you get stamped to 2 plus knock. They know they're getting knocked out next turn. Get stamped to 2 plus knockout, and you probably just lose the game from there. A very good play there by my opponent, choosing to KO the Dedenne over the PikaRom. Now they're going to try and load up the Zacian and make it as hard for me as possible. That is super unfortunate. Losing the pivot of the Boltund does hurt, just in case we want to be able to Tandem Shock. Now, obviously, we're already planning to Lightning Ride next turn, so we don't need to switch next turn, but it's still really nice. They pull in a second Mawile. This is a good Mawile by my opponent. No, it's not. Well, I don't know. Actually, I'm not 100% sure. It's so on one hand, let me talk through my thinking on that one. Why is it a good Mawile? I have a massive hand. They know they're going to hit something for sure. They're guaranteed. Why is it not a good Mawile? It doesn't set up anything for them. Mawile with a full bench KOs Dedenne, KOs Crobat. I'm not going to have a full bench anymore. They're knocking something out. So now their Mawiles aren't going to KO anything. They've tapped at 190 damage. I just don't bench anything else. I think saving the Mawile was better. In addition to that, I don't know what's in their hand, but I could just choose to Tandem Shock this turn, and they're now bench locked, so they can't Crobat either. But I don't think that's an optimal Mawile. Yes, they're going to hit something. I've got a massive hand. I probably have what I need anyway. Like, you assume I'm not dead drawing. Maybe they assumed I was dead drawing. I don't know. He has a guaranteed hit, but doesn't really set you up for anything. Even if this were a Dedenne, that's fine. I'm just not going to put anything else on the bench. Your Mawile doesn't KO my Dedenne, and you still need to set up a 3-energy Zacian instead of a 2-energy Mawile. Versus, save it for next turn. Maybe I don't Marnie. Maybe I keep a massive hand. Mawile, fill the bench again. Saucer, attach, boss, knockout. So not the optimal play there by my opponent, I don't think. If you disagree, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious. I'm not like 100% sure. We, of course, have to know what's in their hand as well. Okay. Draw for turn. We already know our game plan. Lightning Ride GX. Take the knockout. Go into the Mewtwo and Mew. Tag Team GX. We have game in hand. We have switch, attach to Boltund, knock out literally anything they have. That would be 5, 8. That'd be 10 energies on board. We KO a Big Charmed ADP. So we have Stamp. Well, we have Koko too. There's no reason not to use. Well, actually, wait. Do I have to energies in the discard? I'm not sure. We should check. We always Stamp here for sure. My opponent doesn't have much left. Lightning Ride GX, go into the Mewtwo and Mew with the 3 energies. It can retreat if we have to. Currently have game in hand. See? And this is a situation where we happen to draw. Like, even if my opponent doesn't play that Mawile, I don't play my turn differently. But they go, I'm going to bench this Dedenne. They just go Saucer, attach, boss, and they win the game. So I definitely think it was a suboptimal Mawile for my opponent. Plus, I should have 2 bench spots. They could also go Dedenne Crobat this turn, but now they can't. They can't dig that deep. Because they have a second Mawile on the bench that didn't actually advance their win condition whatsoever. There's the Day-Day. Choosing not to research, which is correct. If they don't play Sword, maybe they know Sword's prized. They looked in their deck. There's one downside of playing a 1 of Sword. Drop down a Viridian. That's fine. So now, again, my opponent can't Crobat because they have a second Mawile on the bench. Not great. Okay, so now they need a second Great Catcher or a Sword. And they still need a Saucer. They found the Saucer. They usually find the Saucer. They found another Saucer, just in case. Now the question is, do they have Rusted Sword or Great Catcher? They saw a lot of cards this turn, but they have 11 cards between deck and prizes. And no. Go ahead and attach a Boltund, hit the switch. We have the knockout with whatever we want to do. So again, it was a lot of make sure if you have answers to everything, you're generally fine. We pulled off that Tandem Shock play. Now you may be saying, what do we do if our opponent hasn't answered the Tandem Shock play? We play a very different game at that point. That changes quite a bit in there. If they haven't answered the Tandem Shock play, we have to go hide the Mewtwo on the bench, unfortunately. Or we have to full blitz, bait the Mewtwo out there. I don't know. It depends. I'd have to look back at the hand and stuff. Probably just full blitz to something like the Raichu or a second Mewtwo. And, leave it out as bait. Let them KO it. Stamp to 2, KO. And we can still win the game the exact same way. So actually, yeah, it's generally fine. My opponent they missed Intrepid Sword, stuff like that, which is incredibly important for us. So hopefully you learned something from this, maybe from the PikaRom side, maybe from the ADP side, who knows. But thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. If you want to watch me use the rest of my keys, check out the Twitch channel. This was recorded live on Twitch. That's why there's no hints. I don't want hints for my Twitch chat. If you do come in, don't offer hints. I'm not trying to cheat like that. But let me know in the comment section below what you think of the game, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out.